This time on Rick's workshop, we're going to build this laptop stand. It's collapsible and leaves room underneath for your keyboard. So watch and see how we do it. Here's our drawing. We're going to make it 12 inches deep, 11 inches wide, and it's going to be 2 uprights and a cross member in the back. We've transferred our drawing to a piece of plywood that we're going to use as our template. As you've seen in some of my other videos, I use a router on a template to keep the shape exactly the same. Let's set this up to cut out with a jigsaw, and then we'll use some sandpaper and other tools to get the shape just right. We've clamped our piece to our table, and now with the jigsaw, we're going to trace out those lines. Remember, we don't trace to the exact line. We use sandpaper and other tools to get our line just right. All right, that's it with the jigsaw. Everything else, we're gonna do by hand. I'm just gonna take my piece of wood and my sandpaper and wrap the sandpaper around it, creating a flat surface that I can use to sand all these pieces. After much sanding, we got a pretty good line here. But I noticed something. There's a gap. There's a piece missing inside the plywood, a void. I'm gonna have to fill that because if the router were to catch that, it would ruin the piece. So I'll use some putty, I'll fill that in. It'll take overnight to dry. Tomorrow I'll sand this again, and then we should be able to use it to create our final piece. Went ahead and picked up 1/2-inch plywood with a lot of layers. It makes it nice and stable, and when we sand it, this will look really nice. Overnight, our piece dried, and we were able to sand it smooth and remove the voids. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna lay this in and draw out our piece, rough cut it with a jigsaw, and then use the router to finish it up. With the pieces stuck together with double stick tape, we're going to go ahead and take the router, and using a trimming bit, we're going to remove all that excess. I've set the depth on the router bit so the ball bearing rides along the template. So let's see what we get.
two sides. Now while they're still together, we'll refine the shape a little bit more with the sandpaper so that they are identical. Then we'll cut a slot to hold the support piece that goes across them, that holds them in place. With a little bit of sanding and some elbow grease, we got rid of the tape. Now we're going to set these guys apart. The way we're going to do that is we're going to set up the piece across here, and we will notch both of the sides and that piece so they accept each other. We're going to do that on the table saw. Added an auxiliary fence to my miter gauge, and I have a test piece clamped in here. I've set my stacked dado head cutter to the width of and thickness of our plywood. Let's just do a test cut. Nice and snug. It would be a little too tight, but we can adjust that with a little bit of sandpaper later. So let's set up to cut the sides. Went ahead and clamped the two sides together, set them up for a cut, and then we'll do the cross member. I've clamped the two pieces together with the slot aligned, and just using a piece of wood with some sandpaper on it, I'm just adjusting the fit. Just to test fit, but we can see how that back structure holds everything together. Now some sanding, some more sanding, and some polyurethane, and this piece will be set to go.
And here it is, our laptop stand in use. Tune in next time to see what else we build in Rick's workshop.